Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the IMG Australia channel. It's been a while since we had a chat in this channel. As you can see, I had some issue over last 2-3 weeks. I'm returning to sort of normal day-to-day life. So what I'm going to discuss today is just to continue what we started, which is just about my sort of pathway to become a GP or a doctor in Australia. So far we discussed, from my memory, so far we discussed about how I did the AMC Part 1, AMC Part 2, and then how much I had to do to become a sort of practicing doctor or entering to the hospital system. So the last video, we just discussed about how I entered the Australian health system or to the base hospital here close by, and then how I completed the different types of rotations. And so I think we covered up to me become a fully registered doctor under Australian Health Practitioner Authority or APRA. So you guys so far aware about that part. So we will start from there. Today I'm going to discuss about the path to become a fellowship holder GP or a GP under the RACGP or Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. So from that rotation time from the hospital, I then did the GP training pathway, which is very similar to the pathway taken by the normal Australian graduates or the usual medical graduates in Australia. They just go through the same sort of path. I took the same path. When I say the same path, I think you guys know I have discussed about the overseas trained doctors. So IMGs can enter the GP training pathway in a different way after doing a PESCI. But this pathway I'm discussing is different, which is very similar to usual Aussie qualified doctors, the pathway taken by the usual normal medical graduates in Australia. So I did the same thing, which is first thing you have to complete your rotations and become a fully registered doctor under APRA. Then you have to do GP training entry exams, which involved two types of exams. So which I did, like it's called AGPT, Australian General Practitioner Training Pathway. So I just did the AGPT pathway. For you to become eligible for AGPT pathway, you should have few things. One is you should either have permanent residency or citizenship in Australia. So I had both. And then you should actually should be a fully registered doctor under the APRA, which I did have. And then you should have covered some critical areas of training, which involved emergency, surgery, medicine, and pediatrics. Pediatrics is a must for this training pathway, so which I have done during that 3-4 years of training in this base hospital close by. So let's talk about the AGPT pathway then. So I had this exam, two parts. Entry exam has two parts. One is called situational judgment test, SJT. So, which is very similar to the MR, like the UK exam, MRCGP pathway. So it's very similar to that one. So for that exam, actually we practice material bought online from that MRCGP website, plus situational judgment scenarios. I can put some links down here for you guys to watch if you like. This is not about medical stuff, but it's more about how you handle different challenging scenarios and how you deal with patients, patients' families, and your supervisors and your colleagues and things like that. Challenging scenarios. So situational judgment test, which you have to pass, and then you go through a OSCE stations or different stations with GP scenarios or clinical scenarios with already established GPs, which I did as well. So it's kind of a clinical test type. So you do this situational judgment test and then that clinical scenarios or OSCE scenarios. Once you get through those, you are eligible to join the GP training pathway. It's interesting when you join in the GP training pathway. So you go through these exams and get through, which I did. And then after that, you have to go to a matching program, which is like you will be allocated for one area of Victoria, like this state. And then you have to match with different GP practices, which are looking for GP registrars. Once you get through these exams, you become a GP registrar. Then that GP registrar training usually has 2 to 3 years of training, actually 3 years, but that 3 years length is cut back to 2 years if you have enough of hospital experience, more than say 2-3 years of hospital experience. So I had 4, so I had enough. So my training was cut to 2 years. But to get that 2-year position from a different GP practices are private places here. So you have to go through this matching program. Matching program in the sense is like you log into this program and you create your profile and you put your CV and you write a cover letter. And then through that cover letter and CV, you talk to different GP practices, especially to the practice managers of those GP practices. And then you have interviews with them. And then you have to then select, you have to give the preference, first preference, second, third, and so on. So up to 10 you can do. And then if you're matching, like if you put preference 1, and if the GP, as you do this preference, GP practices do the same in parallel. They put preferences to you or other GP registrars, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And then if the 2 matches, like preference 1 for you and preference 1 from the clinic matches each other, then you go for that clinic. So in that way, actually the first clinic I wrote to is the place I ended up, but I went to interviews at different places. Although some clinics put you as first preference, you haven't put it as your first preference. The other thing is, although you put your clinic, that clinic as your preferred place, the clinic might not have picked you as the first person. So likewise, you have to sort of do a bit of matching. It's done by another GP training organization here. Those days, it was a private, different training organization. It was called Murray City Country Coastal GP Training, or MCC, but MCCC. But now it's this GP training is still gone back to under RACGP. So when you go as GP registrars, there's 2 colleges. One is RACGP, the other one is ACRAM. ACRAM is the Rural and Remote College of Medicine, and then RACGP is the big college where a lot of GPs are trained under. So I myself was a RACGP registrar and then finished this registrar period in 2 clinics. You had to do at least 2 clinics, one probably 18 months, then the other one 6 months, or one 12 months and the other one 12 months. So I did 12 months each in 2 different clinics. It's a bit far from home, like it's about 100 to 125 kilometers away from home. And then I completed the training. And then after you complete during the training period, they give you a lot of workshops monthly in the first year, very good workshops, like say pediatric workshop, say genomes, and then say psychiatry, aboriginal health, likewise different topics. And then it's a very good training, this AGPATIC training program, or the RSEGP training program. So I completed that. And then after that, you have to do 3 exams again, which I did. First one was AKT, Acquired Clinical Knowledge, which is a theory exam. And then you have to do KFP, which is Key Feature Problem Test, which is again a theory exam, but you have to sort of go through a clinical scenario using your theoretical knowledge. And then the last one is face-to-face clinical or online clinical. So I did an online clinical because of the COVID. So we were the first lot of people who did the online clinical exam. So once you successfully complete all these, RACGP offer you FRACGP or Fellowship of Royal College of General Practitioners, which I obtained now. This is 2023, so I obtained it in 2020. So that's the end of the story about my training. So that means from 2014 by 2020, so it's about a 6 years time. So I took 6 years to do my hospital rotations, GP entry exams, and GP exit exams, and become a fully qualified FRACGP degree holder GP, or you call a specialist GP. As I said, the GPs here are specialists. It's a specialty on its own right. And then GPs here are not just doctors who are doing sort of community clinical practice, but they're very qualified. And then they have to go through all these exams and training and everything, workshops and everything, to become a qualified GP. So that's the last part of my journey, if you want to call it, or I can continue about what I'm doing now, which probably in the next video. Okay, guys, you guys have a good day today. And then as you can see, I had a bit of an accident, which I will discuss in a different video.